Hi, this is Bobby G, and this is Bobby G's Big Stone, Austin, Texas. And my guest today is Nova Lorraine. I am so excited to have Nova Lorraine with us today. She's done so many amazing things, and I am super excited about this conversation we're going to have today. Nova is in this week for South by Southwest.
That's right.
Which is a really big part of Austin, and so many great things are going on, and people coming in from not only all over the world but all over the country. And Nova, why don't you tell us about what you had going on this week and some of the exciting things that happened at South by Southwest this week?
Well, this is one of them.
Well, thank you.
Just being on your podcast. So I was invited to do an art activation event for Sneakars, which is a custom sneaker company. And I'm a fashion designer, and we'll go into my origin story. Wasn't always a fashion designer, but I do fashion art. And I use generative AI now to create some of my art. And so this company, seeing the aesthetic that I have around fashion and art and bringing those two worlds together, wanted to collaborate on a custom sneaker collab. And so we're doing an art projection, like a live projection activation, where those art pieces that get projected onto the actual sneakers get made custom by whoever wants to order them. So you'll be wearing my art on your feet.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. And I don't know if anyone's done that before either. So when I was asked to do it, I was super intrigued, and I love sneakers. Like, I'm always wearing sneakers now. Even though I am a heels girl, I love my heels. But to have my art on like really cool sneaks, I was like, let's go for it.
I think that's so cool that you can customize it with your art, with the colors that you have for whatever fit you have going on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so I do abstract art. I do a lot of fashion art, which means I will either have, you could see the beauty in it, or when I say beauty, so I have these pieces that are inspired by glass mosaic, and they're portraits of women and this like in seductive expressions, but very elegant and timeless. And then I have pieces that are abstract fashion pieces, where this one piece, the character is hooded, so you can't see who's under the hood. You kind of get a glimpse of it. And then the hood is sort of blowing in the back, but it's almost as if it's liquid, you know, as the character is moving forward. So there's this mystery and the mystique around that piece as well.
But it's a snapshot in time, right? It's not,
Yeah. And so then you're taking this art piece that has whatever expression or story behind it, and then you're applying that to another medium. So the sneakers are serving as the canvas. But then you're bringing this whole layer of storytelling onto the sneaker as well. And it's so, like, art is subjective. So whatever appeals to you from that piece and the story, you now can have it with you and own it on some very classically styled sneakers.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And do you own, if you buy the, so if I were to buy a sneaker with an image on it, do you keep that file? So like if my sneakers got banged up or something, I could go back and order it and get another one of the same thing?
Yeah, 100%. And because I'm in the blockchain space, being not only AI in terms of what I do in fashion, but Web3, your purchase would be minted on blockchain. So you have a proof of purchase that doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, so you actually own that image, and then that's yours.
Well, your imprint of that style, yes, would be yours.
Oh, wow.
And then if you wanted to reorder it, absolutely.
What if you wanted to like an NFT? I mean, what if it were to go up in value, for instance?
Oh yeah.
So I'm the one who owns that.
That's right.
And 30 years from now, my kids could sell that if they wanted to. Or now, do you also have, as the creator, do you get like I've heard that with NFTs, which I thought was so cool, that the artist will get like a percentage of what gets sold going forward?
So it's a smart contract that's immutable. And then typically any royalties is built into the contract. So it depends on the artist and the contract, but typically, yes, the originator.
Let's just pick a number out and say 5%.
So yeah, let's just say 5%, and you purchase the sneaker, the custom sneaker, and you now own the NFT, and that NFT allows you to order the sneaker, and then you could keep the NFT, you could trade it, you could sell it, you could pass it on.
Yeah.
And then if someone wanted to do that over and over again, the original artist gets a percentage. And then if it's built in, let's say you as a purchaser wanting to also get a percentage moving forward, then you can sell potentially an NFT of your NFT.
A new smart contract
Yeah.
on top of that.
Yeah,
That's so interesting, isn't it?
it is. It's such a new world of ownership, revenue, protecting your IP, but then also taking the advantages of how you can distribute your IP as well. Build a new community around it. And I think it empowers artists. This is a new era of ownership, empowerment, and not only around the creative IP, but then also to move past this mindset of the starving artist, which I never believed in or bought into.
Well, that's what I love. That an artist can, the starving artist that you were describing. People maybe pass away earlier or something and never have any money from it. Yet their heirs will be able to potentially live comfortably off of the artwork that's done.
Right. But now the artist can imagine a whole new means of sustaining themselves financially around their creations.
Yeah.
And also in this era of AI, being able to further protect their IP as well, and to go directly to the consumer, without the middleman. I think that was one of the earlier reasons why, Bitcoin sort of caught on fire, was to move past the middleman and just go, person to person as it relates to transactions. And this is an example. It's just one example of how blockchain can empower an individual or a creator.
Yeah, I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. So that's one of the reasons. That was the initial reason that brought me.
So all of the pieces that you've done, you've got smart contracts attached to each one of those.
Yes,
is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing.
Yeah, and then we'll do limited editions of each sneaker as well.
Well, isn't everyone limited because you're selling that? Isn't each one unique, and then you're selling a contract with that particular sneaker?
So yes, but let's say I have. I'm just going to use an example, a pair of lips on the tongue of the sneaker.
Okay.
And I decide that I'm only going to allow 10 of those to be printed.
Okay.
Well, the contract, now remember the NFT serves as your receipt, your proof of purchase. So the contract will say, okay, this is number 9. So once you hit number 10, that's it. Only 10 people can own it, for example.
Okay.
And no more of that particular style would be sold.
Those 10 people each own the NFT for that as well?
Yes.
Or they own just a sneaker?
They would own the NFT and the sneaker.
Okay.
The physical sneaker as well.
Okay. All 10 of those people? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then those 10 people can buy or sell their or can
NFT.
hold on to theirs or what have it.
That's right.
What have you, and then you're, because of the smart contract that's embedded in it, you're getting whatever you write into the contract on that going forward.
That's correct. Yeah. So it might be 10, might be 12, might be 20. But it's going to be a smaller number, though.
Yeah.
Because we want to create that scarcity.
Sure.
But still have a micro community of individuals that own that style. Mm-hmm. So they have that in common as well. Because I also believe the future of our economies are going to be built around these micro communities.
Okay.
And so if I know you're number 11, and then there's number 8, and then there's number 9 that all own this style, we've created a community around this particular style, and we know we're like-minded, at least in that aspect.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And how was it received at South by?
Oh my gosh, it was like, you heard fire, oh, that's awesome, da, da. So the idea really intrigued me initially as I was trying to visualize it, and we were playing with some concepts on the computer. But to see it in real time projected on the sneaker and to see the live reaction of people around it and seeing how excited they were getting. And then the co-creation process, because in real time, we're adjusting the art and we're saying, well, what about this? And what about that? And getting feedback in real time as well from real consumers who would want to purchase the sneaker with that particular art. And so the whole process was super exciting, but the reception was amazing.
What's a price point?
150 and up.
Yeah, so manageable.
Yeah. Yeah, for custom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, not only custom, but you're also owning the NFT.
that's right.
So it could be potentially enormous.
Yes, that's right.
So you want to get in there early and buy up some sneakers.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I need a pair.
Exactly.
Because I want to be involved for $150.
Exactly. Yeah, we have like the baseline price to be accessible, and then the more exclusive designs will go up in price.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the more limited editions
more limited editions
are not going to be the $150 one.
Right.
They're going to be some other number.
Right, and specific designs that we do. So more coveted designs would also be a higher price.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
What else tell me about some of the people you met, some of the things that you weren't expecting to see at South by?
So I reconnected with an old friend,
Okay.
Martha Weatherford, and
Who introduced the two of us.
yes, and we've stayed in touch. Gosh, we've known each other probably about 2 decades, and stayed in touch over the years. And we hadn't seen each other like in real life in a long time. So this was a great time, an excuse to come down and reconnect with her. So that was amazing because we're both in the fashion space, and she's a dynamo as it relates to her consulting business and fashion. And so connecting with her and having her tour me around the different spots of Austin so I could actually see Austin beyond the festival. But we also collaborated and co-hosted the House of Nova Supper Club,
Okay.
which is an extension of the House of Nova Collective, which is a community of female founders and creators from around the globe coming together to support each other in our journey of entrepreneurship.
That's
And
beautiful.
so we have communities in New York, Europe, Africa, the Caribbean. We just kicked off Australia. Where else? Dubai. We don't have Asia yet, so that is on our to-do list. But so the Supper Club allows us to get together casually over food and drinks, and to meet new friends, meet old friends, find partners, collaborators, advisors, new customers, or just a sister, someone you can lean on,
Okay.
talk to. And the whole purpose is to have a community you can go to in good times or bad times. It doesn't matter. Like, you could show up as you are, in the collective. And that's the point. So if I want to celebrate, I'm celebrating with my community. If I need a shoulder to lean on or cry on, I can do that within the community.
Now, once you're in the community, if I can cut you off for a second.
Sure.
Do you share like email addresses, and then everyone, if I've been at the collective, I think you did it on Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's right.
Is everyone sharing email addresses and phone numbers and such, so you can reach out to people a week later if a seed was planted and you're like, oh, I need to talk to so-and-so?
So a couple things, yes. So in person, everyone's sharing information, contacts. But then we also have a WhatsApp group, and we have a LinkedIn group.
Okay.
So you can continue the dialogue as a collective on those channels, or
And then you can
branch out.
connect with someone in Dubai, for instance, because you've been to the one in Austin.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, wow, that sounds really powerful.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So we just did New York, Orlando, and Austin in less than a month. Yeah.
That is really special.
Yeah,
I love
I'm
that.
excited about that. I'm really
I love
excited.
connecting people, and
Me too. And just meeting new people. It's okay. I love people. Okay, so any excuse is to meet a new person, but to do it in a way where you're coming together for a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not about what's in it for me. It's about how can I show up for you? How can I support you? How can I help you? And if every person comes in with that mindset, then everyone is helping each other, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm coming in, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you? Everyone's doing the same thing to me. So I just multiplied my support system by being in a place of wanting to give. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to a lot of networking groups, you come in, well, what's in it for me? And I'm just looking at what can I get from you?
Yeah.
So if everyone is doing that, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it doesn't feel true or authentic. Not saying you can't meet really cool people
Sure.
and connect on deeper levels, but if everyone's coming in with this attitude of what's in it for me, then eventually you start feeling that you're like, and once you're done getting whatever it is for you, you're not committed anymore. Where I said, well, what if I created a community where I'm coming in, I have a younger sister, we're there for each other. I could show up, no makeup, whatever, no judgment. I could show up with accomplishes and failures, no judgment. What if there was a community like that? And we're truly like excited about helping each other. So that's what I wanted to, and I like creating solutions as opposed to complaining about problems. I'm like, okay, how can I create something that can help or add to something that, oh, I wish I had that, or create it.
Yeah. I think that's really special. When did you come up with that idea?
It was the summer of 2023,
Okay.
and we kicked off a Breakfast Club meeting in September 2023. And I'm trying to think because, oh man, time flies. And then so we grew the community into 2024. And then I paused because I like to stop and reflect and say, and ask myself, is this fulfilling my purpose? Am I scaling in the way that's sustainable, that's in alignment with what I want? And there was a lot going on. I lost a few family members. My co-partner that I started with, she had a new venture that took her attention. And I wanted to make sure that if I grew it, it could be sustainable. And it could grow independent of me. And so I paused. And then this fall, I said, okay, it's time to fire this back up again and do it in a way where it's super highly curated. It's not about speed and growing to 10,000 as fast as possible. It's about quality over quantity and organically growing it, and then doing these real life in-person events again. And that's where the Supper Club idea came in.
And how many did you have on Wednesday night?
We had a group of about 10 of us on Wednesday.
Nice.
And
That's a
then,
great sized group, right?
yeah, just under in Orlando and about 20 in New York. And these all are like within 2 weeks. Okay, guys, we're doing this. Who wants to come? But it's the perfect size to really get to know someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really beautiful conversations. You really feel like you know the person, you can trust the person. And then they become the seeds to then grow and expand it in that local community.
I love that. Yeah, that's really special.
I'm excited.
You should be.
They're so much fun too. It's really a magical thing, like just being a part of it and seeing how different each community is too, based on the location. Like it's like what's important to those women or the culture of that area.
And they can plug into the women in Orlando or the women in New York, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, that's right.
That's really, well, it's, one of the things I like to talk about here, in addition to the big stones in our lives, which we can get to next, is how people improve the fabric of the community. And so by coming here, I know you're not an Austin local, which most of my guests are, but you know what you're doing as far as being involved in South by Southwest, by being involved in this supper club of like-minded women. You're planting those seeds and you're improving the fabric of Austin. It's I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. And sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Now tell us about you didn't get here on your own. There have been some special people in your life. I know a bit about your history, your family, and whatnot. And if you want to talk about that and talk about some professors and people you've worked with and whatnot, I know we'd all love to hear about that.
Yeah, there's been so many incredible people in my life, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my family because I'm just grateful for them. Born in Jamaica, my father, had the opportunity to come to the United States. He got the Willy Wonka ticket of a visa way back when it was really challenging to come here, as an immigrant from Jamaica, and he had to make the choice to leave my mom with my brothers for a short time while he made his way here. And once he got settled, he sent for my mom and my brothers and I. But my mom was pregnant with me, and he said it was the hardest decision he had to make. But he wanted to come here and make a better life for his family. And so he was actually instrumental in naming me. He wrote to my mom and said, if it's a girl, name her Nova. So thank you, Daddy. But just to see how hard my parents have worked while being here and raising 6 of us in such a loving environment with such a strong work ethic, the values of persistence, resilience, education, how important education is, how important it is to love and support each other as siblings. These are values that we were raised with, which just go beyond, leaving the house as an adult. So they're incredible. Plus, my parents are very stylish. And so I also had them as like seeds to my fashion journey. But beyond my parents, I would say I've had professors that saw my light, that saw my potential, that mentored me. I've had coworkers that also, words of advice or introductions, and I'll share a couple of stories. I've had mentors that were there in the right time that I needed the champion or the person that believed in me as an entrepreneur, as a new entrepreneur, to say, you can do this, keep going, you can do this, as a successful entrepreneur looking at me as a mentee. And that was special as well. So Dr. Chinsky is one of the first people that jumps out at me. And he was the head of the Department of Psychology at the University of Connecticut. So I did my undergrad there. I was pre-med since, I just knew I wanted to be a doctor in high school. I'm like, I'm going to follow my brother's footsteps. I want to help people. Medicine's the way to do it. And I joke that if you're a Caribbean, you could pick 5 careers. You could be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher, nurse. Pick one of those, and that's it. So doctor definitely fit the check box, but I really wanted to help people. I knew that much. And so I'm on this journey, and I was, again, filling all the check boxes and what you need to do to get into med school. And so now I'm in my major courses. I'm taking psychology, and it turned out that I was ruining the curve for all my classmates. And so one day my professor called me, to stay after class one day, and I was like, oh no, what did I do? And he's like, Nova, what are your plans after you graduate? I'm like, I'm going to med school. And he's like, oh, okay, great. Well, I just have to say you're ruining the curve, okay? And you're scoring the highest any of my students have ever scored in these years that I've been teaching this class. He said, what about grad school? Would you think about going to grad school? And I, clear as day, looked at him and I was like, well, what's that? And then he was like, all right, this is going to be a longer conversation. But I was so focused on going to med school. That was all that existed to me. Outside of, again, those other traditional careers, I didn't even know grad school was a thing. And so we met. He shared with me that he felt that I could make a huge difference in the field of psychology as a researcher, as a clinician, and for me to look into it and seriously consider it. So I did. And he took me under his wing, and I started doing research and going to the different conferences, psychology conferences, and fell in love with the idea of becoming a clinical psychologist. And I really wanted to make an impact in the field. And so that was the route. And if it wasn't for Dr. Chinsky, I wouldn't have pivoted in that direction. And I'm so grateful because I absolutely love the field of psychology. Well, thanks to him and many others, I ended up getting into grad school, full scholarship, PhD program, teaching position, teaching Psych 101 to undergraduate students.
Okay.
And I also had a full list of patients that I saw every week. Life was great, right? Right. Well, until it wasn't. Well, one day on the way to class, which I love my classes. I'm a nerd. I love to learn. I am a student. Like, I love being a good student. So I'm on my way to class another day, and I was stopped in my tracks. And the only way that I can explain this was that, do you know when you daydream? But you typically don't stop to daydream. You're just walking or driving and your mind wanders. Well, it literally felt as if I was stopped. Like some force was like, stop walking. So I stopped for a moment. And then I just saw these images, series of images of what would my life be like on this current path I was on. Then I saw another series of images, and it ended with me on stage, like sitting on stage. There was someone next to me, and then I heard the words, "You're going to help people through your love of fashion." Okay. What? Like, what just happened there? Okay, first of all, it wasn't like runway shows or models or me sketching. And second of all, I was on this science pre-med track for so long. I'm now in graduate school. There was no fashion, no art anywhere to be seen other than, every day was my runway. I would get dressed up every day. But that was it. So it didn't make any sense. So I kind of just shrugged it off, and on I went to class. Well, a few weeks later, I kept hearing that idea of you're going to help people through your love of fashion, and I couldn't shake it. To the point where I made the decision to finish up early with my master's and move to New York to study fashion design. And that in and of itself was a whole process.
And how did your parents feel about this?
Oh my gosh,
Because you've planned in your whole life to be a physician, to be a
Yes.
doctor,
Right.
and you pivot.
I was terrified. I was so,
Were
because
they
think about it.
terrified?
Well, no, I was terrified to tell them. It seemed like so to come out of left field. And I was on this very predictable, financially secure path that I loved.
Yeah.
But this other nudge, I couldn't ignore it. And then I said, wow, well, now I have to share it with the people I love. So initially my husband, and it wasn't until the third time that I said, I have to go to New York with like conviction, that he was like, wow, like you're serious? Like,
You're living in Connecticut.
I'm
now.
living in Connecticut. I'm in a 4 or 5 year program. And he was like, okay, if that's what you need to do, I support you. So he's another incredible soul that's in my life. And I was like, oh, I gotta tell my parents. Like, what are they gonna think? Fashion? Like, this is before Project Runway and, all the really great resources and TV shows and content creation and all this that we have now around creativity. And they were like, oh, this is what you want to do. We'll support you. I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, I have just recently married at the time. And I was like, my in-laws are going to think I duped my husband. Like, what's going to... And I was like, oh, I got to tell them too. What are they going to think? And it's so interesting that so much of what we do rides on how we feel or perceive what other people are going to think about our decisions.
Sure. Yeah.
But I wasn't asking for permission.
Yeah.
It was out of courtesy and respect, I'm telling you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so they felt that, and they supported me. They all were overwhelmingly supportive, and I was shocked. Like, I was ready.
Family.
I was ready for the... I was ready. But everyone was so supportive. And I feel that for anyone listening, if there is something that you feel so compelled to do and you know in your heart to do, don't ask for permission. Because people want to see you happy. They genuinely want to support you. Like, those that are in your life that truly love you and are not there to, to take from you or what have you, they want you to be successful. They want you to be happy. And so if you come with conviction, they're not going to, oh, well, you need to do this. And then if they do, you're going to respect their opinion and go, okay, well, thank you for your opinion, but I'm still doing what
Yeah.
I need to do.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Next.
I love it. But I think that, for me going through with all this anxiety and stress, for what? I mean, I knew I was going to do it anyway.
It turned out for nothing, right?
Exactly. And thankfully,
It's amazing that the energy you can waste
yeah,
trying to go down this road that never even
for what?
comes to fruition.
Yeah, for days and days. And I'm like, oh, what are they going to say?
I mean, as a parent, there are times that I can think the worst of a particular situation, and I've come to the conclusion that if those thoughts pop in my head, I am supposed to pause and say, this could just as easily be, a positive spin on it.
That's right. That's right. Something.
That those worries and those they just don't need to be there.
They don't.
And when do they ever? How often does anything like that? Those horrible scenarios ever come true? If you feel that convicted that you're right, you should be buying a lottery ticket, right?
That's true.
Go make some money on the idea. Go.
I love how you brought up the idea of being a parent, because you can't help, but it's one thing when it's yourself and you're like, I'm going to do this and da da da. It's another if your child comes to you and goes, I'm going to do this. And you're like, and then like all the worst case scenarios, like you said, flash. And I think as a parent, what I'm learning is, one, you can never stop learning how to be a really good parent. That's one thing. Parenting also helps you grow, and it forces you to grow and expand as well.
It's a humbling job, isn't it?
Where are the books about this too, right? And it is also a process of letting go.
Yeah.
And when you said you pause, and that's amazing, where you're able to be that present and aware to catch yourself thinking, or knowing that you're thinking in a negative way, and to switch it and flip it. Because that took time for me to start pausing and saying, well, what good can come from this? This is not my journey. Yeah. Each of us are here to grow and learn. As a parent, especially as my kids get older, I'm here to support and guide and mentor. Yeah. And they're not objects that I own. I'm here to provide that cradle if they need it. Yeah. And that's hard in and of itself. And so my parents were such amazing examples.
They sound that way.
For me, where they were just like, okay, we got you if this doesn't work out, but hey, we're here for you. We're here to support you. Yeah. And that is so empowering when the people that you trust and admire so much have your back. And they're not quick to criticize. They're able to, even if they're afraid, to hold back on showing that fear. Because that's really where those negative emotions come from. It's
from fear.
Yeah, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And it's always like on the, the bad side, where, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens, on the positive side? Like, why don't we go there first, right? And
sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I think this journey is not only about letting go, as in terms of a parent and our children, to allow them to have their own experiences, but letting go of fear, which is a bigger lesson to me. And so that was how I pivoted from medicine and science to fashion and art. I went off to New York and went on to FIT and really haven't looked back. And again, I'll credit that to Dr. Chinsky. And another person on that journey, which was so instrumental, where I don't know if I would have gotten into the schools that I applied to, at least the first time around. Because again, I had no fashion or art background. And here I am, I want to apply to the top schools in the world. And like, okay, and you are? And that's the thing, like, yes, you are that one that will apply and get in. Like, that's the attitude we should have. Yeah. As opposed to questioning, well, Will I? Yes, you will be the one. And
Well,
so,
if anything, you're going to learn something from the experience, no matter
right,
what.
100%.
Nothing's wasted.
That's right. That's right. And so there was a woman who I worked with that I took a year off between grad and undergrad. And I was doing the 9 to 5 grind. And I was like determined to work up. I'm very competitive and I was an athlete most of my life. And so I was like, all right, I'm always like ready to win, right? So I'm going to be the top employee. I'm going to exceed all the goals. And I was doing great. I was an IT recruiter. Ironic that I'm in tech now, but I was an IT recruiter. And my boss didn't have all the screws tightened so well, just not so much. But anyway, I found myself being very frustrated. And coming home one day, I remember it clear as day, I'm so dramatic. I am theatrical. I am a performer, I will admit. I will admit. I do act now. But then I could see like where that comes from. I threw myself on the bed, was crying. And I was like, no one said life was going to be like this. You know, your first realization of adulting. And if I could do anything in the world, what would it be? Boom, fashion. So that was a download I had. And
You asked the universe a question and you got an answer.
I got an answer. And
Be careful what you ask for, right?
be careful what you ask for, 100%. So I remember, I was like, oh, that is weird. Like, okay. So I'm like thinking about it. So I go to work the next day, and in the elevator is our accountant, beautiful human being. Her name is Anne. And so she's like, hi, Nova, bubbly. Hi, Nova, how are you today? And what's new? And I was like, should I tell her? Because I was like really excited about this too. I was like, I want to be a fashion designer. And it sounded ridiculous coming out of my mouth. And then she's like, oh, really? And I was also afraid. I'm like, what if she tells my boss,
That fear creeping back.
Yeah. And then she was like, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend who is a designer in New York. Now, I'm in Connecticut, like Hoboken, Connecticut, right? So for me, New York City was like, oh, New York? You know a designer? Again, you didn't meet designers every day, right? And so her generosity of opening her network to me, was incredible because I did end up going to New York, meeting the designer. He gave me invaluable information that allowed me what I needed to have a successful portfolio and interview to get into the top schools, which I got into. I didn't go because I was on this path, like I said, for so long. I ignored even that little sign, which was a big sign. And I was like, oh, I'll do that when I retire one day. That was cute. And although I did get in, I applied, I got in, I ignored it. I pushed it aside. Because when I got into grad school, this was this thing I was working on for so long. And it was an unbelievable offer, full scholarship, a job, and what I love to do. It was a no-brainer. And that's, life is so funny because we think that, we get on this trajectory or this path and we think this is what life is going to be. And we make all these plans and it seems so easy and so simple until you're thrown literally blown off course. And then you're left with the unknowns to deal with. Right? It's like...
It sounds like the conversation we had earlier.
What just happened? I was like, boom, you do this, you do that, da, 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 da,
yeah.
Life is good. No. And so again, I ignored that. And I think that's also something to mention is when something keeps coming up in our life, it's meant for us to pay attention to. It's meant...
Oh, I say that all the time. If I hear it twice, then I'm like, I've got to investigate this.
Oh, for me, I know it's 3 times. It's literally I don't know, remember the cartoon where they put the hammer, how many lumps do you want? Let me, it's 3 lumps. Once I get that 3rd lump on the head, I'm like, okay. So when I think back to the breadcrumbs, I probably could find 2 other breadcrumbs. So when I was stopped in my tracks going to class one day, that download I had when I had my little panic, my meltdown, what do I do with my life? And then I could think back to another moment where I was directed to fashion, but ignored it. Directed again, ignored it, to the point where I could not ignore it anymore. So yeah, if anyone's listening again, if you think everything is like, and you haven't had that like strong wind that to the left or right or upside down, brace yourself. It's coming. I'm just saying. And it may not come in the way we expect it, but it's coming.
Yeah. No, I mean, literally, that was the conversation we had on the way here.
Yeah.
And I told you about, my divorce, and it was just like, and I was pissed. I was like, I've got all this stuff figured out. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh, well. And you're in fashion and loving it, and I'm here giving a podcast where I wouldn't have been however many years ago. Of course.
But yeah, I agree. You know, when you were sharing about your divorce earlier, I mean, who would predict that? You know, who's gonna? And I think, you know, something I mentioned in one of my books that I wrote, Unleash Your Supernova, is bend like a bamboo tree. If you're flexible and you're ready, you know, like, again, being from Jamaica, hurricanes come through the island. We have bamboo trees, especially in the countryside. And they're as sturdy as they can be, and you'll have whatever winds coming through from these hurricanes, and they're still standing after the storm. And as humans, we're going to have storms in our life. And if we see ourselves as a bamboo tree, like, yeah, we may bend, but we're going to come back stronger than ever, and be okay with bending. You know, I think being a parent like that.
I've said for the longest time, if you take a look at like a baby or a new sapling, they're flexible. The things that die are a brittle tree.
Oh, good.
An old person who's not been stretching or anything, and they die. And you want to be like new life. You want to be flexible, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's the key. You gotta be open to most anything.
Yeah. That makes me think of, talking about bending, this story. Not so much a happy ending, but still powerful and enriching for me. So out of the blue, I meet a gentleman. His name is David Freshman. And so when I said I went to fashion school and I didn't look back, well, that journey, 5 years into launching my first fashion company, I launched Rain Magazine. And Rain Magazine was my give back to the creative community. I wanted to create a platform that I wish I had early days in my entrepreneurial journey, where you can be discovered based on your story, your innovation, the impact you're making in your community. And so Rain focuses still on the future of fashion, culture, and technology. So I meet this gentleman, David Freshman. He's in the venture capital space, running these conferences on the East Coast, vendor funding conferences. I knew nothing about VCs. I knew about angel investors, but I didn't know anything about venture funding. And he attended one of the Rain events. These were invite-only events. And we did issue release parties, and he attended. And he fell in love with the magazine and the concept, and took me under his wing as a mentee. And not formally, but we had a bond, and he would like, what's going on? How are you doing? What do you need? You need to come to these conferences. You need to learn about venture funding. You need to meet these entrepreneurs. And then he was fascinated with the fashion tech space. Again, very ironic, because I never really saw myself as a fashion tech company, even though I did a digital magazine before digital magazines were a thing. And it was a fashion forward magazine covering fashion amongst all things. And he was the one who put it together and said, this is a fashion tech company. This is a huge opportunity, this industry. So then he created a whole ecosystem around fashion tech. Well, 2 years into this journey, this whirlwind of a person in my life, he suddenly passes away from cancer, weeks after I found out that he had it. And and after he found out that he had it, and left such a profound impact on my life, and was there to allow me to see the potential I had as an entrepreneur. Because when you have an idea or a passion and it turns into a business, you're not like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, now it's a buzzword, and there are more and more entrepreneurs being born every day out of necessity and out of desire and what have you. But during the time when I launched Rain magazine, it was still this very novel concept of launching a business.
How many years ago was that?
2007 when I launched Rain.
Okay.
And you had your big guys, your big tech guys in Silicon Valley, and then you had your small business owners and that were opening franchises, or your local bakery shop or pizza shop or something like that. But there weren't many solopreneurs or small entities, or what I called creative entrepreneurs, that at least saw themselves as entrepreneurs. They were just following their passion or doing what they loved. And so I wanted to create this community of creative entrepreneurs. And I feel like it's a little different when you're using your right brain and your left brain. So I love the game of business and strategy, right? I'm puzzle making and but then I'm an artist, I'm a storyteller, I'm a designer. And so balancing those two things is very challenging at times.
Sure.
And so...
I don't think there's a lot of people who do it well.
Yeah, and then how do you move forward with a business out of your creative talents without getting burnt out? Mm-hmm. And so, again, this is where psychology comes in. I still bring that into everything I do. So I felt Rain was needed as a platform. And then here comes this angel, David, that was like, yes, it is. And this is why it's going to work. And this is a huge opportunity. And just sort of allowing me to see what it could become and the impact that I was making, And so he's still in my heart. He's still an incredible force on my life. And it's been over 10 years since he left us, and 11 years this month, actually. And that's another person that, again, that just left such a big ripple. It's a Big Stone podcast, who is a big stone in my life and in the lives of so many.
Dropped in out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, and so many other people.
Seemingly nowhere.
Seemingly nowhere.
Right? We're just at the exact
the
moment.
Yes. Such a force.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? The project I'm working on now, I think back, the original idea, it's changed a little bit. I remember sharing it with him. And he's like, well, what are you going to call it? And I told him the name. He said, did you trademark it? I was like, no. He goes, you need to trademark it today. He was like so emphatic about it. He's like, because we were driving to an event, he pulled the car over and he was like, write it down. You're going to trademark that idea today. Like just having someone in your life that, you come up with stuff and you're like, oh yeah, that's cute or whatever. And you don't really think about it. To have someone to see that and say, da, 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 da. And then that idea is what I'm working on right now. I'm in this accelerator program. It's hosted by Tsunami Ventures. It's a venture fund, Tsunami, and it's an international hackathon, venture-thon. And at the end of 8 weeks, they help you raise $125,000 if you make it to the finish line. So I'm one of the finalists, and literally this is the idea that initially I shared with David, and where he was like, yes, that's amazing, and you need to... Yeah, so perfect timing. Hey, David. I know you're doing. But I remember I was like looking through my notes and I was like, oh my gosh, like however many years ago, this idea, was brought to me, and it was another download. I get a lot of downloads. Yeah. But yeah, I remember he was the first person to be like, I shared it with, and he was like, yeah.
I think so many of your ideas, it seemed like they all kind of come together. It's like the accountant who you shared that you wanted to go to fashion. She was like, yes, I've got somebody for you to meet. And then having this supper club where you're, giving rather than taking. And I love the whole What a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Life is, I'm appreciating the little things, like intentionally stopping to appreciate more and more because oftentimes I'm off to the next thing. As a creative, you're ready to create the next thing. Okay, what's next? What's next? And when I'll share a story or an experience with someone, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Nova, do you know, like, that's really cool," or "That's amazing," or I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh, I'm just doing me. I'm just, helping, giving, creating, supporting, whatever." But I do think it's important that, especially those of us that feel like we're here to give, we're here to serve, we're here to help, empower, teach, whatever, to take those moments to go, that was pretty cool. And just like the little things as well, like Martha, good friend from, 2 decades ago, 20
brought
years
us
of a
together,
friendship,
that's
who
the reason
introduced
why
me
you
to
and I are
you.
sitting here.
Yeah, who introduced me to you. She's like,
Who I
Nova.
just met recently.
Like, I love how the dots, because
Yeah.
I said, I'm thinking about coming to Austin for South by Southwest. And she's like, you need to come. Literally next day, I need to introduce you to Bob, and you need to do here,
I
and
mean,
da
I
da
literally,
da.
I just sat down with her through Rue, her
Oh
friend.
yeah, yeah.
And Rue's like, "Oh, you got to meet my friend who's going to be here. She's so special. She's moved back to Austin, da da da." And I was just chatting with her at a friend's birthday party and just described what the Big Stone podcast is all about. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, my friend Nova's going to be here. You have to meet Nova." And I was like, "Of course."
Yes,
And
I
we got
love
it.
it.
She put us in a group text.
Yep,
We talked on the phone,
yep.
and here we are. And
And here we
I'm so
are.
appreciative you came in early to be at the benefit we had for Sims
Yeah,
Foundation.
that was lovely. That was really cool.
That was really so.
The music was beautiful, and the cause. Like mental
Yeah.
health, as you know, it's something that very close to my heart.
Yeah.
When I was in grad school and I was seeing patients, and I was frustrated when I would see my same patients come back week after week, because I felt that the tools we were given, at least in that moment in my training, wasn't sufficient. I felt that there needed to be something more that could make a bigger shift in their life faster. And I get it. People like to share and they want to come back and share and talk, but maybe this is the athlete in me. I like results. I want it to be quick. I want it to be permanent, sustainable. And when I made the pivot to fashion, what I was thinking was I could use another tool to get ahead of mental health or help support that journey, help turn the tide, and put a lot of energy on the preventive side, put a lot of energy on the well-being side of things. And it is so crippling when your emotions get a hold of you, your mind gets a hold of you, where you can't, function in the way that you want to function. And it's something that's not talked about enough. And, with the right mindset, anything is possible. And if we have more resources on the preventative side and well-being side to counterbalance, all that's being done to support those that are going through, mental health issues, I think it will make a really, really big impact in the future. So to have that music event, for Sims and what they're doing for musicians.
I think it's amazing if people are listening and not familiar with Sims Foundation. It's an organization that's just turning 30 years old, and Sims Ellison took his life about 30 years ago. And this foundation provides mental health care for local artists, musicians, and their families. And they operate on a shoestring budget. And if you're listening, you can go to Sims Foundation and donate. You can donate one time, you can donate monthly, you can donate large. But I think we had about 100 people here the other night.
Yeah.
And we had 2 bands and 2 solo acts. And, we had Robert, who contributed his engineering and sound and whatnot, and had Tito's Provide Vodka and Dolce Vita tequila and music water for the water, and and lots of great people and a beautiful evening. And it was
a beautiful evening.
it was really, really special. And I also need to thank my son George, who was like, we need to have an event here for the Big Stone podcast.
Oh.
And I started thinking, because I've always envisioned having a band down there on the sport court and the city as the backdrop. And that weekend I had just started taking TM, and so I was doing my meditations on Sunday morning, because I knew that I wanted to have an event, but I wanted to have an event to benefit someone and to do some good in the community, because I sit and talk to people about what they do to improve the fabric of Austin, and so I felt like I need to do something as well.
I love that.
And so I got through with my meditation, and I was like, Sims Foundation, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I talked to Sims and the foundation, and talked to shortly afterwards, I had the two founders come in, Don and Wayne, and tell the story. And so it was really special. And it makes me feel really good to be a platform for them to tell that story to others, and then to have an event here to celebrate all the good they're doing, and get the word out there some more.
Yeah, it was a great night.
Oh,
Beautiful
so fun.
sunset.
Yeah.
Music was great. People were great.
Yeah,
it was good.
I'm so happy you came in early, and I'm so happy you joined me today, and I'm so happy we're friends.
Yes,
Because you're
me
really
too.
a beautiful soul.
You as well. I mean, I felt that when we first spoke.
Oh, thank you. We're out, guys. Are you out too, Pi?